Hello there and welcome. It's another beautiful Wednesday morning, the 29th of March 2017. Welcome to From the National Assembly, Senate. In the past few days, so many things, so many interesting things have happened. And for those that are following, they know that as we keep saying, no 2 days are ever the same. And each day comes with its own peculiarity. We will have some little analysis on that before we go into the chambers. But in the meantime, on the order paper today, we have what is slated are reports, 6 of them to be considered, and then there are about 13 bills that will go for the second reading. As I said, we have the pleasure of the Deputy Majority Whip of the Senate, Senator Francis Alemekena, that will help us analyze things that have happened in the past few days. Sir, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting things have happened. Let me just give you a blank check. Summarize to us and to our viewers by extension what exactly has been happening in the past few days.
It's democracy that have been at place for the past few days. You elect the people to represent you. That's why we are here. And we have to talk the interests of the popularity of the Nigerian people. That's what has been happening here.
Okay. In the course of this thing, how will we describe the relationship between the executive and the legislature?
It's cordial.
Okay.
And whatever happened is democracy. That's why you have the framers of the Constitution know this one, that yes, the executive are the one to act. We will now have the legislature to make laws, and they have to have no one is superior to the other one, and that is the framer of the Constitution. And if one, the senior one, is doing wrongly, the other one will say, okay, what you are doing, tally this way to suit the people. That is what is been on the play.
Okay. This is democracy in action, as you said, and this is the beauty of democracy?
Yes.
That is the beauty.
Yeah, that is the beauty of democracy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, some people might decide...
And that's why it is not a dictatorship.
Okay, it isn't.
Yes.
The Senate yesterday stepped down some nominees, resident electoral commissioners, by the presidency. Even that, some people are looking at that as some kind of statement that is not openly stated. How do you think people should take this?
No,
it's also part of the democracy.
Yeah, as I said, this is democracy at work. Yeah. That they step down some of the names doesn't mean that they will not be cleared. It's just for them to send a message to Nigeria that this democracy that you ask us to practice. There are some other areas that are trying to derail the democracy. That is what has happened. Not that they will not be cleared.
Okay. But 2 weeks was given for some consultation between the Senate President and the Presidency?
Well, it's not necessary consultation. If you call it consultation, where is consultation? But that is how democracy should work. You must consult. You must even go back to your constituency to come and consult and speak on behalf of your constituents.
Okay. Well, so far, a lot of bills have been passed. What should people expect from the Senate as we forge ahead?
Yes, you should expect a vibrant Senate, the Senate that represents the generality of Nigeria, and that's why you can see that we have a lot of bills that are going to be passed today for second reading, and some other bills have been passed and they be forwarded to the president. And it's because of the democracy that we now say, okay, after passing the bill, you have to send to the president to accept. Then we have more bills that are going to be passed to and be sent to the president as well to accept. And this is democracy. Otherwise, we would have passed the bill to say, okay, the National Assembly has passed the bill, it becomes a law. But the Constitution says the National Assembly, you will pass a law, you will still send it to the president to accept to become a law in the country here. And that is democracy.
People are still concerned about budget. What's the state of budget as it is now?
The budget, we are on it. The budget will soon be passed.
Okay.
You should bear in mind that the budget was passed last year around April. And if you had to allow the budget to take 12 months calendar, the budget of this 2016 will last about April this year. Okay. So we are still in order.
Okay. We wish you happy deliberations.
Thank you very much.
All right. Yeah. Thank you very much,
okay.
Sir. Well, we now take you directly into the hallowed chambers of the Senate for live proceedings. We'll see you at the end of the proceedings. Have a pleasant viewing time.
Umar Kurfi, Katsina Central.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, my name is Umar Ibrahim Kurfi, representing Katsina Central. I rise to move that we adopt the vote in proceedings of Wednesday, 28th March. I so move. Thank you very much.
Senator Saliu Ahmed Ogembe, Kogi Central.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the vote and proceedings for Tuesday, 28 March 2017, I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 28th of March 2017 is hereby approved, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 28 March 2017 is hereby approved. Announcements. Letter from Mr. President. Dear distinguished Senate President, confirmation of ministerial nominees. In accordance with Section 147(2) of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, I have the honor to forward the underlisted ministerial nominees for confirmation of the Senate. 1. Stephen Ikanyo Ocheni, Professor, Kogi State. 2. Suleiman Zama Hassan, Gombe State. Copies of the curriculum vitae are attached herewith. It is my hope that this exercise will receive the usual kind, expeditious consideration of the distinguished members of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Please accept, Mr. Senate President, the assurances of my highest regards. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari. Letter from Senator Abu Ibrahim and Senator Mustafa Bukar. Wedding notification. Aisha Mustafa Bukar and Ibrahim Abu Ibrahim. It's a pleasure to inform Your Excellency and our distinguished colleagues that our children, Aisha Mustafa Bukar and Ibrahim Abu Ibrahim, will be getting married on Saturday, the 28th April 2017, at the Emir's Palace, Daura, by 11 a.m. There will be a reception in their honor at the Palace and Daura Motel by 12 noon. As a mark of our special relationship, we shall be honored with your presence and our distinguished colleagues to share with us in the joy of the occasion. However, in the event you are unable to attend, please remember the new couple in your prayers for a blessed, fruitful, and peaceful marriage. On behalf of our families, we thank you very much in anticipation of the honor and accept the assurances of our high esteem. Signed, Senator Abu Ibrahim and Senator Mustafa Bukar. What do you call this? Let me wish to acknowledge the presence of staff and students of Peniel Children Academy, Kubwa, Abuja, staff and students of Destiny Kiddies International Academy, Dakwa, Abuja, who are in the gallery to observe our proceedings. I wish them a fruitful observation of the Senate proceedings. Please sit down. Petitions? Yes, Senator Mwahapana.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Senator Mao Arukwe Ohuabunwa, representing the entire people of Abia North Senatorial District. Mr. President, I rise to present these three petitions from my constituents. One is from
Master and Dr. Mrs. Ogamba, not Ogembe, please, against the customs. This petition is to bring to the knowledge and notice of the Senate that while they were driving on the way in Calabar, the Lexus RX 330 vehicle they bought from a registered dealer for about a year now, they were stopped by the customs on search and they presented all their documents. But unfortunately, after presentation of the documents and explanation, the customs went ahead and impounded this vehicle and they presented the documents. But as they speak, the vehicle is still in the custody of the customs. So they are asking the Senate to please ensure that justice is done to bring customs to release their vehicle because they have all the documents. They are not dealers. They bought it from the dealer. That is number one, Mr. President. Number two is from another constituent, Chidi Waha, who is alleging wrongful dismissal by the police and is asking the Senate to please intervene and ensure that justice is done, that he be recalled back to his job. Then finally, Mr. President, this is a petition from a distinguished professor of more than 30 years standing, who is alleging his wrongful dismissal by the University of Nigeria and Nsukka. This Professor E.U. Imaga, a distinguished professor. So, Mr. President, he's asking the Senate to look into this case and ensure education and ensure that justice is done. Mr. President, may I seek your permission to lay these petitions?
Yes, come and lay the petition. Come and lay it. Petitions refer to ethics and privileges. Report back in 2 weeks. Petitions? Benny, petitions? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Ben Wajumogu. I represent the good and hospitable people of Imo North. I have this petition from the Berekete family. It's titled Request for Urgent Intervention for Justice over the death of Mr. Desmond Nunugo in custody of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. This petition seeks the intervention of the Senate in resolving issues arising from the death of my constituent, Desmond Nunugo, who died in EFCC custody sometime last year. Mr. President, it will interest you to note that today the National Hospital and the Nigerian police are yet to allow the family to appoint a pathologist to conduct autopsy on the corpse of Mr. Nunugo, and up to today, his corpse is still lying in the mortuary. It seeks your intervention, and if you permit me, Mr. President, I'd like to present the petition.
Okay, Senator Benjamin, come and lay the petition. Petitions refer to ethics and privileges. Report back in 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate. Yes, point of order, Baraj Jibril.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Baraj Jibril. I represent Kano North. Mr. President, I want to come under Order 43. With your permission, I read as follows.
Go ahead.
By the indulgence of the Senate and the leave of the President of the Senate, a senator may make a personal explanation, although
there be no question before the Senate, but no controversial matter may be brought forward, nor may debate arise upon the explanation. The terms of the proposed statement shall be submitted in detail to the President of the Senate when his leave to make it is sought. Mr. President, you may recall that yesterday you gave me the opportunity to come under the same order in order to report to this august Senate an incorrect story that appeared on the front page of the Daily Trust indicating that 13 kilos vehicles were found in my house and my house was sealed. Of course, I said it loud and clear that that story was false. And I was surprised that that story came up in the Daily Trust newspaper. And today, the Daily Trust has retracted that story on page 5 of today's edition. With your permission, Mr. President, may I read that portion? He said in our story, customs impounds Senator 13 vehicles, which appeared in the Daily Trust of Tuesday, March 28, 2017. We inadvertently said the house in which the vehicles were impounded belonged to Senator Barrow Jibril. We hereby retract that part of the story and apologize to the senator. Mr. President, even though the apology or the correction appeared on page 5 instead of front page, I hereby accept the apology. And I say so because, as I said earlier, or as you all know, we are all human beings. Daily Trust is an entity, and it can make mistake. And it's always good when you make a mistake, you accept that you made a mistake and apologize. And they've exactly done so. I'm coming. And I will also call on them today that they should repeat this apology on the front page, because this matter did not only affect me, it affected the entire Senate. It was the integrity of the whole Senate that was put to test. But I want to say that they've done the right thing by showing humility in a way that they've just apologized. I've said it earlier that I hold Daily Trust with the highest regard, because an entity that we all look up to for good news coverage, particularly in the northern part of the country. So I want to urge them not to allow this kind of thing to happen again, because it's not good for their image. And I know from the discussion we had yesterday with some of them, with the editor, this will not happen again. And I want to say finally that I want to thank the Senate President, and I want to thank my colleagues for their support. And it shows that we are one and the same. And the way the Senate came and supported me yesterday, particularly Senate President, is what is supposed to be done when each and everyone here is touched. Each and everyone here his integrity is being put to test for no reason. So we should rally around to work together, and that's just exactly the way it was shown yesterday. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, as you all know, according to our rules, there can be no debate on this matter. It is a good development that Daily Trust has swiftly apologized, because as we all know, that it was not just your integrity, but the integrity of the institution, because the way the story was done was even inciting and giving the kind of level of irresponsibility of a senator. I'm happy to see that they've retracted that and apologized. But as you rightly also observed, the apology too should have come in the front page in the same manner, because how many people will read the third page or fifth page, whatever page it was done? But as I always say, it is work in progress. We must continue to defend the institutions, because it's not about you. It's about the institution, and as such, that the fact that they've apologized and you've accepted it, I think we can put that matter to rest. Leader of the Senate. Yeah, point of order, Deputy Leader.
Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Bala Ibn Allah, representing Kebbi South, and the Deputy Senate Leader. Mr. President, I'm coming under Order 15, 16, and 18 of our...
Yeah, go ahead.
Read Order 15. Any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising, and he shall be prepared to move without notice a motion declaring that a contempt of breach of privilege has been committed, or referring the matter to the Committee on Ethics and Privilege. But if the matter is raised in the Committee of the Whole, the Senate, the chairman shall leave the chair to report progress. Mr. President, Order 16 says, when a matter of privilege at any time arises, the President shall, until the matter is disposed of, or unless the debate on a motion therein is adjourned, suspend the consideration, decision of every other question, provided that precedent over other business shall not be given to any motion. If, in the opinion of the President of the Senate, a prima facie case of breach of privilege has not been made out, or the matter has not been raised at the earliest opportunity. Mr. President, Order 18, in specifics, says, any senator complaining to the Senate of a statement in a newspaper, book, or other publication as breach of privilege shall produce a copy of the newspaper, book, or publication. Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues, today, the 29th day of March, 2017, the Punch newspaper, in particular, page 8 of the paper, titled, Sagi, others kick as Senate puts up rec confirmation over Magu. The specific provision I'm complaining of, Mr. Chairman and my distinguished colleagues, he said, the paper read, but the chairman, Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption, Professor Ise Sage, SAL, described the Senate action as calling on Buhari to sack Magu in 2 weeks as childish and irresponsible. Sege told one of our correspondents in a telephone interview that the Senate was filled with people of questionable character who put their personal interests ahead of that of the nation. Mr. President, there is no dispute as to the fact that today, distinguished Senator Nala is a senator. Now, if somebody in the standing of Professor Sege will make this comment, it means this Senate is under obligation to invite distinguished Senators Sege to come and name the questionable people that fill this Senate. It's very important at this stage of our political development. It's very, very important. And two, let me say, with the greatest respect, that if knowing fully well, Mr. President, if due diligence has been done in respect of who the person and personality of Professor Sege is, I am absolutely sure that he will not have been appointed in that position. But let me say, with due respect, that I, Bala Ibn Allah, am not a person of questionable integrity. Let me equally say that no senator here is a person of questionable integrity. Mr. Distinguished colleague and Mr. President, if you look up there, that is distinguished Senator Jeremiah Husseini. He spent the best part of his life serving this country. At a stage, he was almost going to be the president of this country, with the greatest respect. So for somebody in Sesege's position to come and call this Senate is irresponsible and that childish and that people of questionable character, it behoves on this Senate to call upon him to appear before the Ethics and Privileges Committee to say, because we came here by name, he should name. Nigerians are entitled to know, and we should know, on the basis of that. We will argue about this matter here and there. But in conclusion, let me say, Mr. President, that the public will have the benefit of knowing where the irresponsibility lies. And I hope I have made my point. Thank you very much.
Yes, leader. Yeah, come on, ladies.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, I stand up to speak with very profound sense of responsibility and duty. So I believe that if there is anything this administration needs, is cordiality in relationship between the legislature and the executive. It therefore behoves every presidential aide, from ministers to the least in the ladder, to behave responsibly, to encourage and sustain a very cordial relationship between the National Assembly and the administration. Mr. President, we are elected. We are elected people, just like the president is an elected president. The Nigerian public has every right to criticize us, call us to order where we err, proffer suggestions, and weigh out where they think we need that. But I take special and serious exception when a presidential aide, instead of trying to bring people together, the two sides of government, would speak in this manner that is so divisive and necessarily creating tensions between the two arms of government and dragging and pulling down this administration from achieving those very noble and laudable campaign promises. I therefore take this opportunity to advise presidential aides, if you have to speak, when you have to speak, if you must, please speak that language that will bring the executive and the legislature into some serious understanding for us to achieve what Nigerians need most. We are not above board, and I want to emphasize this. Nigerians have the right because they brought us here, but a presidential aide hasn't got that right. He hasn't. He can only proffer suggestions on the way out. I therefore believe that what the deputy leader has raised is serious, is fundamental, and I hope it will be an eye-opener and a lesson to those who have not said anything yet and who are advised not to say at all. Thank you.
Senator Peter Wabushi.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Peter Wabushi. I represent the good people of Anioma of Delta, North of Delta State. Mr. President, I want to create three scenarios so that this Senate will be able to understand the person we are talking of, and for us to know whether there is any need at all to invite him. Mr. President, if you remember last year, when the Supreme Court of Nigeria, gave a ruling in a matter before the Supreme Court, steering proceeding and action, Professor Sage came out and cast aspersions on the judges of the Supreme Court. and said everything he wanted to say about the judges of the Supreme Court that sat in that panel. The Nigerian Bar Association, then under Barrister Lege, SAN, came out to apologize on behalf of Nigerian Bar Association. He took on Nigerian Bar Association. He said all sorts of things about Nigerian Bar Association. The same Professor Sage, when he was a professor of law in University of Benin, and a woman, Professor Alele Williams, was appointed a vice chancellor of University of Benin from Delta State. Professor Ise Sage, with two other professors, became intransigent and tried to pull down the administration of this woman because a woman was appointed a vice chancellor, the first woman vice chancellor in Nigeria. And that led to the government then of Ibrahim Babangida to sack him, and the other two. That is another Professor Sage. The same Professor Sage, when he was asked to deliver a speech in Delta State after the creation of Delta State, he said that the good people of Delta North, who I represent, that the fact that we have a state capital, we are therefore we are not right to aspire to the position of governorship of Delta State. What am I saying? I want to appeal. This is his trade, this is his trademark. And like my friend has said, if they had done some screening about him, there wouldn't have been any need, they would not have appointed him. He doesn't strive in where there is peace. His best is when there is confusion and trouble and create problems everywhere. That's how I've created 3 scenarios when he was 3 issues I brought before. I want to appeal. Let us not waste our time on Professor Sage. Let us face more important issues, national issues, than to talk about Professor Sage, because it will continue. If a man at the age almost 80 years, if not more than 80, is behaving like that, it is trademark. You cannot change him now. I want to appeal to my distinguished senators. Let us just leave him. It is his trademark. And those who appointed him, if they decide to be bringing him, he will continue to cause trouble, cause confusion, and that is his trademark. That is my submission, Mr. Chairman.
Distinguished colleagues, I think this matter will be referred to ethics and privileges and report back in 4 weeks. I will leave ethics and privileges to look into the matter. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is the consideration of the report of the parliamentary visit of the President of the Senate to Berlin in Germany. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, we recall that the report of the committee was laid yesterday, Tuesday, 28 March 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Abaribe to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Abaribe.
Thank you, Mr. President. My very distinguished and worthy colleagues, my name is Einaya Baribe, and I represent Abia South. May I crave your indulgence to put before you the report of the official visit of the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, to Germany, to Berlin in Germany from 8th to 10th March 2017. Introduction. I have the report? Everybody has the report, yes, I believe. Everybody has the report, yes.
Does everybody have the report?
You have the report. Following the invitation of the President of the Bundesrat, that is the Federal Council in Germany, MS Malo Dreyer, to the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I hereby submit the following report. The Bundesrat is one of the 5 constitutional bodies in Germany and is referred to as the parliament of the governments of the federal states of Germany. The federal states participate in legislation and administration of the federation through the Bundesrat, or the Federation Council. The Bundesrat is the equivalent of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. The invitation was as a result of parliamentary diplomatic effort agreed during the 4th World Conference of Speakers of Parliaments in New York in September 2015, and the subsequent visit of the President of Germany to Nigeria on the 8th of February 2016, wherein a parliamentary exchange visit towards deepening bilateral ties between Germany and Nigeria was endorsed. The visit also presented an opportunity to raise awareness on legislative milestones of the 8th National Assembly as contained in the legislative agenda, and to reinforce German support for the Nigerian government in the areas of infrastructural development, agriculture, energy, education, security, and improved governance, as well as to attract investments to Nigeria at this time of economic recession.
Distinguished Senator, I'm sure if you can give us an abridged report and then go directly to the recommendations. Thank you.
The members of the delegation, of course, included the Senate President, Bukola Saraki, the Senate Deputy Majority Leader, Ibn Nala, the Chairman, Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, Mrs. Musumonu, the Chairman, Senate Committee on Defense, Senator Abubakar Kayari, and my humble self, the Chairman of the Committee of Power and Steel Development. Distinguished colleagues, if we go to page 9, we would have the conclusion of the visit and the comments and the recommendations therein. The meeting of the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and the President of the Federal German Parliament underscored the long-standing and warm diplomatic relations between both countries. At the conclusion of the visit, both sides agreed to sustain the parliamentary cooperation and visits in order to deepen our bilateral relations. The two leaders resolved to work together in order to promote partnership in various sectors of the economy. This visit is the first of its kind by any Nigerian Senate President, and I can assure that it was very fruitful. It afforded the delegation an opportunity to assure the German authorities of our government's determination to create a favorable environment for foreign direct investments into Nigeria. The delegation also used the visit to assuage the fears militating against foreign direct investment. The President of the Senate's intervention on the removal of irregular migrants of Nigerian nationality was timely and will help to strengthen the cooperation on migration between Nigeria and Germany. The responses from the German authorities indicated their conviction of business opportunities in Nigeria and their willingness to encourage German companies to invest in the economy. In addition, there is also a parliamentary friendship group that is in existence in the German Bundestag, headed by a certain Mr. Charles Huber. The recommendations are as follows, distinguished colleagues, that the Senate should consolidate on the parliamentary visit and invite the President of the German Bundesrat, which is an equivalent of the Senate, to reciprocate the visit. That the Senate should urge the federal government to lend support to the Senate's passionate push to elicit commitment from Germany to support Nigeria with more military equipment to eliminate the remnants of the Boko Haram insurgents in the northeast. That the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs and Defense are urged to liaise with the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Defense to resolve the issue of procuring a chancery in Germany to accommodate both the defense section and to be at the same place with the Foreign Affairs section. That the Senate is urged to set up a Nigerian-Germany parliamentary friendship group, just like we have the Nigerian-Germany parliamentary group in the Bundesrat. And that the Senate should engage the Minister of Foreign Affairs to dispose the Nigerian Chancery, which has been left vacant for over 17 years. That the Senate, through the Committee on Foreign Affairs, should engage the Presidency to ensure that among the recently cleared ambassadors, that a seasoned diplomat with lots of experience be posted to be the ambassador of Nigeria in Germany. And that the committee should embark on investigation of the purported mass removal of 12,000 Nigerians in Germany and explore on behalf of helpless Nigerians the means to access European and German funds for skill development and capacity building for foreigners in Germany. That the Senate should also send an official letter of appreciation to the German authorities and the Bundesrat to thank them for the warm reception and assure them of our willingness to work with them. Finally, that this Senate should consider effective oversight over some of the key issues raised by the German authorities, such as economic policy consistency and harmonization of agencies at the ports and other matters that arose. Thank you, Mr. President, for this opportunity to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Baribe. Any comments? We can just go to the recommendations on the Recommendation 1, that the Senate should consolidate on the parliamentary visit and invite the President of the German Bundesrat to reciprocate the visit. Those in favor of recommendation 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 2, that the Senate should urge the federal government to lend support to the Senate's passionate push to elicit commitment from Germany to support Nigeria with more military equipment to eliminate the dregs of the Boko Haram insurgents in the Northeast. Those in favor of recommendation 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 3, urge the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs and Defense to liaise with the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Defense to resolve the issue of procuring a property for the Chancellery to accommodate defense section. Those in favor of recommendation 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 4, for the Senate to set up a Nigeria-Germany parliamentary friendship group. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 5 is for the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs to engage the Federal Minister of Foreign Affairs on disposing the Nigerian Chancellery in Bonn, which has been left vacant for over 17 years. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Other recommendations for the Foreign Affairs to engage presidencies to ensure that one of the best hands, diplomat loss of experience, be posted to serve as ambassadors to Germany. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And last, and recommendations 5C, embark on investigation on the purported mass removal of 12,000 Nigerians in Germany and explore on behalf of the helpless Nigerians in Germany the means to access the European and German funds for skill and capacity building for foreigners in Germany. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And then to send an official letter of appreciation to German authorities and Bundesrat, thanking them for their warm reception and assuring them of our willingness to work with them. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And finally, the Senate should consider effective oversight over some of the key issues raised by German authorities, such as economic policy consistency and normalization of agencies at the port. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any other recommendations? If not, distinguished colleagues, let me use the opportunity to say that the general outlook from the visit was that the country of Germany were very keen to work with us, work with Nigeria, and see the opportunity of what is happening in Europe and the Brexit as a time to improve bilateral relationships. And I think it would be good for us in the legislative to give support to the executive as they continue to engage countries like Germany in improving our relationship. And also on the issue of migration, this is something that's very, very important, that I believe at the parliamentary level we can do that, to see how we can work with Germany to ensure we can address this in a cordial manner. And of course, the formation of a friendship group, Nigeria-Germany Parliamentary Friendship Group, we'll set that up immediately. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is the consideration of the report, of the long-awaited report of the parliamentary visit of the President of the Senate to Rabat and Dakhla, Morocco. Mr. President, distinguished senators will recall that the report of the committee was laid yesterday, Tuesday, 28 March 2017. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Abdullah Adamu to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report.
Senator Abdullah Adamu.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I am Senator Dr. Abdullah Adamu. I represent National West Territories. This is a report on the visit of the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, to Rabat and Kila, Morocco, for parliamentary meetings and to attend the Grand Montana Forum on Africa and South-South cooperation from the 16th to the 18th of March 2017. Introduction. Following the invitation of the President of the Senate of Morocco, His Excellency Mr. Abdel Hakim Benchmark, and a subsequent invitation from Pierre Emmanuel Queen, the President of Crans Montana Forum, to His Excellency the President of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, to visit Morocco on a parliamentary visit to Rabat, Morocco, and to deliver the keynote speech and receive international award at the Crans Montana Forum on Africa and South-South cooperation. Approval was given to embark on the trip between the 16th and 18th of March 2017. The first part of the trip was a parliamentary visit to Rabat, Morocco, on March the 16th. And the second part was to deliver the keynote address at the 2017 Crans Montana Forum on Africa and South-South cooperation. So the March the 17th, during which the President of the Senate will receive an internationally recognized award of Prix de la Foundation on March the 18th. Following the state visit of the King of Morocco, His Royal Highness King Mohammed VI, to Nigeria in December 2016, there was need to further strengthen relationships between the two countries, hence the invitation from the President of the Senate of the Kingdom of Morocco. The forum is under the high patronage of His Majesty King Mohammed VI of Morocco, who has recently visited Nigeria to sign over 20 strategic bilateral memorandums of understanding covering the agricultural, oil, and gas sectors. Therefore, the participation of the President of the Senate further strengthened the economic relationship between Nigeria and Morocco. The delegates are led by His Excellency Senate President Dr. Bukola Saraki, Senator Philip Aduda, Deputy Minority Whip, Senator Albert Akpan, Senator Bukar Abba Ibrahim, Senator Dino Melai. The following table summarizes, you all have...
Distinguished colleagues, Senator Bladam, if you can also try and abridge the report so that, I'm going to go to the recommendations.
Parliamentary cooperation. Moroccan parliamentary leaders are calling for a Northwest Regional Parliamentary Forum, that's regional bloc, plus Asia, to share experiences, best practices, learn from each other, and provide technical assistance to each other within the framework of South-South cooperation. There was also a call for the establishment of a Nigeria-Morocco Parliamentary Friendship Group within the National Assembly with the objective of working together with its counterpart, which already exists in Morocco, to ensure collective support to both the Nigerian and Moroccan authorities to implement the bilateral economic agreement signed between both countries, as well as any other future obligation of mutual interest. Both leaders of Parliament assured each other of instituting the Nigeria-Morocco Parliamentary Friendship Group with the objective of being the working platform for actualizing the implementation of the bilateral memorandum of understanding signed between Nigeria and Morocco in 2016. conclusion, I respectfully wish to conclude that the trip to Morocco was very successful. For the first time, the Nigerian and Moroccan Parliament agreed to work together through parliamentary cooperation to support their executive governments to realize the implementation of the bilateral memorandum of understanding signed in 2016. The visit, which was the first of its kind between the parliaments of Nigeria and Morocco, afforded the President of the Senate of Nigeria and his delegation the opportunity to assure Moroccan authorities of government's determination to create a favorable environment for bilateral trade between both countries and other African countries. Recommendation that the Senate congratulate the President of the Senate, His Excellency Dr. Abubakar Bukola Saraki, for winning the Crans Montana 2017 Prix de la Foundation Award. The relevant Senate committees follow up on the oversight of bilateral agreements signed between Nigeria and Morocco, particularly the Trans-Sahara Gas Pipeline project that will pass through Morocco to Europe. That Senate set up a Nigeria-Morocco Parliamentary Friendship Group and call upon African parliamentary leadership to use legislative frameworks to ease process of doing business among themselves so as to increase trade within Africa. For the consolidation of the parliamentary visit, the President of the Senate should invite the President of the Moroccan Parliament to reciprocate the visit. I so submit to justice.
Thank you. Any comments before I go to? Yes, Senator Philip Aduda.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Distinguished Senator Philip Tanimu Aduda. Mr. President, I was part of this delegation to Morocco. And Mr. President, worthy of note is the Prix de la Foundation Awards 2017 that was given to you, which is reserved for heads of government of various countries and presidents of various countries. And particular of note was the award was once given to the former president of the United States of America, President Obama, and Secretary General of the United Nations. I want to say that we were put on the world map and on the spot when you were given this award because you indeed made Nigeria proud. So I want to, on behalf of myself, my distinguished colleagues here, congratulate you, Mr. President, distinguished Senator Bukola Saraki, for this wonderful award. It is indeed as a result of your stewardship when you were governor and how you managed agriculture in your state. And they did mention that while they were giving you this award. So, Mr. President, on behalf of the Senate, I congratulate you on that. And also, Mr. President, the Moroccan government is really eager to do business and to work with us and to develop our economy. And this was also evident in the fact that the President was also always talking to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, even while he was in the UK. And even while we were in Morocco, they mentioned to us that there were conversations between the two presidents on bilateral cooperation. And I want to encourage that we also ensure that the project for gas pipeline is carried out to the latter to ensure that this brings about economic cooperation within the sub-region. And they're also eager to go back to be members of ECOWAS, and I think that we can also use this medium and forum to support them more so that we might be forming a parliamentary group that we can be discussing on various parliamentary issues and ensuring that the 14 bilateral agreements that were signed between us and them, the federal government, it's brought to fruition. And also probably invite the parliament from Morocco to also visit so that we can collaborate and ensure that there's economic development in Africa. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, we'll go to the recommendations. Recommendation 1, that the Senate do congratulate the President of the Senate for the winning of the Crans Montana 2017 Prix de la Foundation Award. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, the relevant Senate committees follow up on the oversight of bilateral agreements signed between Nigeria and Morocco, particularly the Trans-Sahara Gas Pipeline project that will pass from Morocco to Europe. Those in favor of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, the Senate set up a Nigeria-Morocco Parliamentary Friendship Group. Those in favor of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4, call upon African parliamentary leadership to use legislative framework to ease processes of doing business amongst themselves so as to increase trade within Africa. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And last prayer for consolidation of parliamentary visit. The President of the Senate should invite the President of the Moroccan Parliament to reciprocate this visit. Those in favor of this prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any additional recommendation? Distinguished colleagues, once again, let me thank all those who were part of this visit, and also emphasize that what we saw was a desire of Morocco to integrate not only into Africa. They've just joined the AU. They're now looking to join to ECOWAS, and they're very keen, knowing the role of Nigeria, to work closely with us. Already, the King of Morocco has developed a good relation with the President, and following that is when they set up their own friendship group in the Parliament. I believe that it will be useful once we set that as up, and also to ensure oversight that some of the bilateral agreements that were signed at that time are fully implemented. I thank you. Let me also use this opportunity to please also appeal to our colleagues that once we go on any of these trips, no matter how brief the reports are, we can bring them and lay them and be able to brief our colleagues on some of the events, and I think it will help us a lot in going forward in doing this. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is the consideration of the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of A, petition from Oluchukwu Ulasi, Esquire and Associate, on behalf of the family of late Arerebo Dressman against the Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company, alleged brutal killing of Arerebo Dressman by officials of the company. B, petition from Corporal Maxwell Biba Kedom, retired, against the Nigerian Army over his non-inclusion in the payroll of the Directorate of the Military Pensions Board after retirement. And C, Law Rights Associates against the Department of Parks and Recreation, Federal Capital Territory Administration, for alleged unlawful conversion and reallocation of a green area park plot at Guzape, Abuja. Mr. President, distinguished senators will recall that these reports were laid on Thursday, 16th March 2017, Thursday, 11th November 2016, and Wednesday, 20th July 2016, respectively. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyanwu to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Samuel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Samuel Anyanwu. I represent Imo East in Imo State. Mr. President, with the leave of the Senate, I move that the Senate do consider the reports of the Committees on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of A, petition from Olochukwu Ulasi, Esquire, and Associate on behalf of the family of late Arerebo Dressman against the Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company for alleged brutal killing of Arerebo Dressman by officials of the company. B, petition from Corporal Maxwell Bibakedo, retired, against the Nigerian Army over his non-inclusion in the payroll of the Directorate of Military Pensions Board after retirement. And C, petition by Law Rights Associates against the Department of Parks and Recreation, Federal Capital Territory Administration. I so move.
Senator Binta Masigarba.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleague. My name is Binta Masigarba, representing Adamawa North Senatorial Zone. I stand to second the motion ably moved by the Chairman Committee, Senate Committee on Ethics and Privilege. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privilege and Public Respect and Petition in respect of the petitions already mentioned by the Senate Chairman on ethics. Those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Sam, present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, my name is Senator Sam Anyanwu. I represent Imo East, Imo State. Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, the Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 14 December 2016, rising on Order 41, Senator Dino Melaya Kogi West drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from Uluchukwu Olasi Esquire, an associate, on behalf of the family of late Honorable Dressman against the Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company for alleged brutal killing of Honorable Dressman by officials of the company, and they urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate referred the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for detailed legislative investigation. Mr. President, I would like us to go to, since we have copies of this report, I would like to go to findings and observations.
Right.
Observations and findings. After considering the disposition of both parties to the case and the submissions, the committee noted as follows. 1. That there was no doubt that Honorable Desi Dressman, who was a staff of PHEDC, died of electrocution while on active duty. 2. That the incident, which happened since Thursday, 12th March 2015, could not be settled essentially because of fear and serious intimidation from the family of the deceased. 3. However, that with the intervention of the committee, both parties agreed to settle the matter as follows. A. That PHEDC would pay the family of the deceased a total sum of 11,285,631 naira 71 kobo as settlement costs, covering death the benefits, out-of-pocket expenses, and logistics to various places the family went to seek redress, professional fee of counsel, and burial expenses. B. PHEDC to employ 2 of the relations of the dead. Recommendation. The committee is pleased to inform the Senate that 1. The terms of settlement above have not only been approved, but have also been implemented to the letter by the committee. And 2. The matter has been amicably resolved, and both petitioner and respondent are pleased to put the matter behind them. In conclusion, Mr. President, esteemed colleagues, I thank you for the support and cooperation and opportunity to serve. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to put on record that this matter has been in court for almost 2 years, and the parties could not agree until finally they withdrew the matter from court and presented the petition to the Senate. And the Senate went into the matter. We did a forensic analysis investigation on this matter, and I can tell you today, 2 of the family members have been employed by the company, and the money meant for all these items listed out here has been paid, and we have a copy of the draft, which they have given to the family. So this matter has been concluded. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleague, I think it's a pretty straightforward matter. The matter has been concluded, and I think it's also, as the chairman said, this is really one of the reasons why we're here to serve our people and to really see the processes working. I commend the efforts of the Ethics Committee. We give hope to the common man and woman who, before now, really there was no hope for this family in a case like this. So I think it's commendable you keep up the work. And I think it's just for us to note, really, and acknowledge the efforts of the chairman. Well done. Next report.
Thank you, Mr. President. In continuation with the report, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 13th July 2016, arising on Order 41, Senator Foster Ogola, Bayelsa West, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from his constituent, Corporal Maxwell Bikadem, retired against Nigerian Army over his non-inclusion in the payroll of the Directorate of Military Pensions Board after voluntary retirement, and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate referred the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Relations for detailed investigation. I'll go to findings and observations. After carefully studying the submissions of both parties, the committee noted as follows. 1. That Corporal Maxwell Bibakadem, retired, voluntarily retired from the Nigerian Army in 1979 without reaching the mandatory 15 years in service that would have qualified him for pension because of his failing health. 2. That he requested for his retirement and the Nigerian Army accordingly retired him to attend to his health challenges. And 3. That the petitioner was not eligible for enlistment for pension because he did not serve up to 15 years, but would have been qualified for pension from the Nigerian Army of Military Pensions Board, as it was the policy then. Recommendation. In view of the findings above, the committee hereby recommends as follows: that the Senate should not grant the request of Dr. Maxwell Bibakadem, retired, for his enlistment by the Nigerian Army Military Pensions Board for the payment of his pension because he voluntarily retired without reaching the mandatory 15 years in service that would have qualified him for pension, as it was the policy then. Conclusion, Mr. President, Mr. colleagues, on behalf of the committee, I wish to thank you for your support and cooperation and opportunity to serve. Once again, thank you, Mr. President.
Any comments? Shall I put a question on the recommendation 1? The recommendation was that the Senate should not grant the request of Colonel Maxwell Bibakadem for his enlistment by Nigerian Army Pension Board for the payment of his pension because he voluntarily retired without reaching the mandatory service. Those in favor of that for recommendation 1, we approve, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Once again, I think that's the only recommendation on that. We'll bring conclusion to that report. Thank you. Chairman, next report.
Thank you, Mr. President. The next report, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Senate will recall that on Tuesday, 12th April 2016, Rising Order 41, Senator Enyinaya I.H. Abaribe, Abia South, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition by Law Right Associates against the Department of Parks and Recreation, Federal Capital Territory Administration, for alleged unlawful conversion and reallocation of a green area / park plot in Guzape, and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate will refer the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for detailed legislative investigation. Please, you may peruse well while I go to observations and findings for want of time. Observations / findings. After deeply probing the parties and thoroughly studying the issues raised in the written and oral submissions of both parties, the committee discovered that the following. 1. That what the petitioner presented as document of ownership to plot 1585B, Guzape, A09 district, was a mere letter of intent to develop, manage, and operate a designated park, and not a letter of allocation. A letter of intent does not confer ownership of the holder. 2. That whereas FCTA records of titles available show that an area of about 39.64 hectares within Guzape A09 district was in 2003 granted to Mrs. L&K Investment Limited for housing estates development under statutory right of occupancy number MLSC 19107. The petitioner claimed that his client, Right Farm Investment Limited, acquired both 1585B, which is part of the 39.64 hectares already granted to Mrs. L&K Investment Limited from Jenk Investment Limited. Unfortunately, FCTA records available show that Jenk Investment Limited did not go beyond just acquiring letter of intent. 3. Although the grant of 39.64 hectares was reviewed in 2015 as a result of some physical constraints, and about 24 hectares excised and incorporated into the holdings of the Federal Housing Authority, FHA. The remaining 19.11 hectares, renamed plot number 4851 Guzape 809 district was accordingly restored to L&K Investment Limited for housing estate development. 4. That the said letter of intent dated 5th July 2007 in favor of Jank Investment Limited was made over an already existing statutory grant to L&K Investment Limited with right of occupancy dating back to 2003. 5. That the claim that Red Farm Investment Limited acquired plot 1585B from Jank Investment Limited via power of attorney was actually a contradiction and violation of the Federal Capital Territory Administration Park policy, which forbids the resale of a park plot to any other interest. Recommendations. From the findings which were themselves consequent upon the submissions of the petitioner and the respondent, the committee wishes to make the following recommendation. 1. That since the petitioner could not prove that he was the authentic owner of the plot 1585B, Guzape 809 district, which was renamed plot 4851, and the Federal Capital Territory Administration was able to establish that plot 4851 was actually granted to L&K Investment since 2003. The Senate cannot grant the petitioner's prayers that A, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory Administration or his representatives be compelled to excise the original park plot number 1585 from the newly created plot 4851 and return the plot to the petitioner's client, Mrs. Red Farm Investment Limited. Or B, the beneficiary of the reallocated 1585B, now reworked as part of plot 4851, be compelled to adequately compensate the petitioner's client, Red Farm Investment Limited, with a plot of land, consummated with the plot of the land in issue. Mr. President, Mr. colleagues, the committee wishes to thank Mr. President, Mr. colleagues, on behalf of the committee. I thank you for the opportunity and cooperation and the opportunity to serve. Thank you, Mr. President.
Any comments, so that we go straight to the recommendation? Recommendation 1, that the minister, that the Senate cannot grant the petitioner's prayer that the Minister of Federal Capital Territory Administration was to be compared to excise the original plot. Those in favor of prayer 1 say aye. 1A say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 1B, the beneficiary. Second, prayer 1B, that Senate cannot grant petitioner prayer that the beneficiary of the reallocated plot 1585B be compared to adequately compensate the petitioner's client with a plot of land with the plot of land in issue. Yes? Those in favor of that prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Again, let me thank the committee for the work well done. Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fourth order of the day is the consideration of the report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of A, petition from Chinedu Obi Esquire on behalf of Tony Onwara against Nigeria Customs Service and the Nigeria Post Authority over Tony Onwara's missing container at Tinkan Island. B, petition from OA Bosede Fumilola against the West African Examination Council for alleged non-issuance of her senior school examination certificate. And C, petition from Usman Umar against Nigerian Army for alleged wrongful dismissal from the Army. Mr. President, distinguished senators will recall that these reports were laid on Tuesday, 24th January 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyanwu to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Samuel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Sam Anyanwu. I represent Imo East. Mr. President, with the leave of the Senate, I move that the Senate do consider the report of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of A, petition from Chinedu Obi Esquire on behalf of Tony Onora against the Nigerian Customs Service and the Nigerian Post Authority over Tony Onora's missing container at Tinkan Island. B, petition from Owoye Bosede Fumilola against the West African Examination Council for alleged non-issuance of her senior school examination certificate. And C, petition from Usman Umar against Nigerian Army for alleged wrongful dismissal from the Army. I so move, Mr. President.
Senator Gobri.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. My name is Ibrahim Gobir, representing Sokoto East. I second that distinguished Senator Samuel Anyang to present the following reports, A, B, C. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do receive the reports of the Committee on Ethics and Privileges and Public Petition in respect of the listed petitions by the chairman, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Samayan, present reports.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, the Senate will recall that on Tuesday, 11th August 2015, rising on order 41, Senator Uche Ekudife, Anambra Central, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from our constituent, Tony Honora, against Nigerian Customs Service and Nigerian Post Authority over his missing container at the Tinkan Island, Lagos, and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate referred the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for detailed investigation. I move to observations and findings, since you have copies of them. Observations and findings. After carefully studying the submissions of both parties, the committee, recommendation, okay. I'll go to recommendation, it's a straightforward issue. Item 70. In view of the findings above, the committee recommends as follows, that the Senate do advise Tony Honora, the Nigerian Customs Services and Nigerian Post Authority to seek resolution of the matter through the court. That's the conclusion, because they couldn't bring the matters, the parties to agree. Thank you, Mr. President, for giving us an opportunity to serve.
I put the question on recommendation. Those in favor of the recommendation that the Senate do advise Dr. Tony Onuora, Nigerian Customs Service, and Nigerian Post Authority to seek resolution of the matter through the court. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, for the chairman, for that report. Go on to the next report.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. The next report, the Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 27th April 2016, Rising Order 41, Senator Babajide C. Omonworere, Osun East, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from Owoye Bosede Fumilelo against the West African Examination Council for alleged non-issuance of the senior school examination certificate, and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate referred the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for detailed legislative investigation. Mr. President, colleagues, if you look at the report, I can go straight to the recommendation instead of looking for findings, unless you wish. Okay, recommendation. Having fully heard and considered the submissions of the petitioner and the respondent, the committee recommends that they do appreciate the West African Examination Council for responding to its call to issue Owoye Bosede Fumilelo, who had been duly earned her school certificate, and the petitioner for patiently fighting a just cause until a solution came by the working of the Senate. This matter has been resolved. This matter lingered for so many years. The committee went into it and got the WAEC to be able to release and issue this result to the petitioner. This matter has been fully concluded. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I think this matter, distinguished colleagues, has already been concluded. It's just for us to note, we thank the effort of the committee in bringing this matter, getting this matter resolved. Next report, Chairman.
Next report, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. The Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 16th March 2016, Rising Order 41, Senator Tijani Y. Kaura Zamfara North drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from his constituent, Usman Umar, against the Nigerian Army for allegedly wrongful dismissal from the Army and urge the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41, the Senate referred the matter to the committee. I must take for observation and finding for you to be able to understand this report. Observations and findings. After listening to the petitioner and the respondent and looking at the documents available in relation to the case, the committee observed as follows. 1. That TPR Usman Umar actually joined the Nigerian Army and was posted to 232 Battalion on 4th January 2007. 2. That he was dismissed for false claims at the point of enlistment into the Nigerian Army. 3. That ex-soldier Usman Umar actually admitted that he committed the offense, and which was a breach of Section 39 of the Armed Forces Act Cap A20, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria to 2004. 4. That though the legal services unit of the Army thought that the officer's dismissal should be quashed and the officer restated, the Nigerian Army insisted that TPR Usman Umar be dismissed to serve as a deterrent to others. 5. The committee is of the opinion that since it was established that TPR Usman Umar's false claims were intentional, he should not be allowed to benefit from such falsehood by restating him. Recommendation. From the findings above, the committee wishes to recommend as follows. That since it was established that TPR Usman intentionally committed the offense of falsification of claims, which was a breach of Section 39 of the Armed Forces Act, to which he also admitted, his dismissal by the Nigerian Army be sustained. Conclusion, Mr. President, we thank you for the opportunity to serve.
We'll go to recommendation. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the recommendation that since it was established that TPR Usman Umar intentionally committed the offense of falsification of claims, which was a breach of Section 39 of the Armed Forces Act, to which he also admitted, his dismissal by the Nigerian Army should be sustained. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Once again, thank you, Chairman, Ethics and Privileges, for this report. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the consideration of the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of A, petition from Mr. Anthony Joy Ekpeme against First Bank of Nigeria PLC for extrajudicial termination of his appointment by the bank. B, petition from Association of Federal Government Doctorate Degree Students in Russia against the Federal Ministry of Education, Federal Scholarship Board for delay and non-payment of their stipends. C, petition from Mr. Ndubisi Nwosu against First Bank of Nigeria PLC for alleged unlawful termination of his appointment by the bank. And D, petition from P.C. Vembe Abraham against the Nigerian Police Force for alleged wrongful dismissal from the force. Mr. President, distinguished senators will recall that these reports were laid on Wednesday, 22nd March 2017. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyanwu to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Samuel.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Sam Anyanwu. I represent Imo East. By the leave of the President and the Senate, I move that the Senate do consider the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions in respect of A, petition from Mr. Anthony Joe Ibeme against First Bank of Nigeria PLC for extrajudicial termination of his appointment by the bank. B, petition from Association of Federal Government Doctorate Degree Students in Russia against the Federal Ministry of Education, Federal Scholarship Board for delay and non-payment of their stipends. C, petition from Ndubisi Nwosu against the First Bank of Nigeria for alleged unlawful termination of his appointment by the bank. And D, petition from P.C. Vembe Abraham against the Nigerian Police Force for alleged wrongful dismissal from the force. I so move.
Senator Shehu Sani.
I stand as Comrade Senator Shehu Sani to move that the report of the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privileges, as so moved by the chairman, is called. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate do consider the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of this petitions just listed, those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Samayan, present the reports.
Thank you, Mr. President. Esteemed colleagues. The Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 2nd March 2016, Rising Order 41, Senator Dino Malaya Kogi West drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from his constituent, Mr. Anthony Joe Ibeme, against the First Bank of Nigeria PLC for alleged extrajudicial termination of his appointment by the bank and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the matter was referred to the Committee on Ethics. I go to observation and findings. Observations and findings. After diligently going through the testimonies and submissions available, the committee noted as follows. 1. That whereas Mr. Anthony Joe Ibeme rested his argument on the understanding that the termination of his employment was caused by the unproved allegation that he extorted monies from a customer to the tune of 500,000, the bank terminated his appointment by operationalizing Section A10 of the bank's Employee Handbook 2007, which grants both the bank and its staff the right to terminate their contract of employment by giving the other party 1 month's notice or payment of equivalent amount of basic salary in lieu of notice. 2. That the above clause does not detract from Section 11(2)(d) of the Labour Act 2004, which makes a similar provision. And 3. That the case had dragged over the years because the petitioner thought that his employment was terminated based on the allegation of extortion of money, a thing he considered to smear on his integrity. 4. That his termination letter actually read, services no longer required, not necessarily because of any allegation. 5. That although Mr. Anthony Beme actually had outstanding entitlements of 2,114,358.84 naira, he was indebted to the bank to the tune of 2,459,342.20 kobo, resting in a net debt balance of 344,983 naira 36, a debt he was expected to settle, or in the alternative. C. Return his status car to enable the bank pay him the net entitlement of 1,939,290 naira 61 kobo. Recommendation. In view of the findings above, the committee hereby recommends as follows: that the Senate do advise Mr. Anthony Joe Ibeme to allow sleeping dogs lie on this matter, as the bank acted within its obligation to staff under Section 810 of the First Bank's Employee Handbook 2007, which grants both employee and employer right to terminate the employment contract either on notice or payment in lieu of the notice. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, we take the recommendation. I put the question. Those in favor of the recommendation that the Senate do advise Mr. Anthony Joe Ibeme to allow sleeping dogs lie on this matter, as the bank acted within its obligation to staff under Section 810 of the First Bank's Employee Handbook 2017, which grants both employer and employer right to terminate the employment contract, either on notice or payment in lieu of notice. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Chairman. Next report.
Next report, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. The Senate will record that on Wednesday, 25th November 2015, Rising Order 41, Senator David Omaro, Niger East, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from the Association of Federal Government Doctorate Degree Students in Russia against Federal Ministry of Education and the Federal Scholarship Board for delayed and non-payment of their stipends. In line with Order 41, this matter is referred to the Committee on Ethics. We want to go to findings, observations and findings. After carefully studying the submissions of both parties, the committee noted as follows: that A bilateral education agreement existed between the Nigerian government and Russia and other countries to train students in various fields, while the home government looked after their upkeep during their stay in the host countries. B, that the number of Nigerian students in Russia under the BEA was 375. C, that the inability of the Federal Ministry of Education and the Federal Scholarship Board to give prompt financial assistance to the scholarship students as a result of exchange rate differentials and inadequate budgetary releases had exposed the students to various hardship, which was affecting their health and academic activities. D, that every outstanding debt owed the student had been paid up to 2016 by the Federal Ministry of Education Scholarship Board. Recommendations. In view of the findings above, the committee recommends as follows: that the Ministry of Education and the Federal Scholarship Board should ensure that budgetary proposal to cater for the upkeep of the scholarship students in Russia and other countries should be in accordance with the projected exchange rate. B, that the Federal Ministry of Education should give priority to scholarship students in the allocation of funds released to it for its departments and agencies to avoid exposing the students to further unbearable conditions and, by extension, embarrassing the country. And C, that the Senate do urge the federal government to ensure that adequate budgetary provisions and timely release of funds appropriated are made to Federal Scholarship Board for the upkeep of the BEE scholarship. I want to say, Mr. President, that this matter has been resolved. The payments have been made, the students have received their stipends, and the Federal Ministry of Education and the Scholarship Board have now agreed that they're going to pay on time to avoid this kind of situation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, as reported by the chairman, this matter has been resolved, and I think it's just for us to note the actions that they've taken so far. Yes?
Thank you, Mr. President. They have paid off these stipends for the students. What we're saying that in the subsequent ones, they must, because the issue we had was that most of the funds released to them, because of the forest differences, they were asked now to make a projection so that they do not fall short of what they're supposed to use.
So we take these recommendations, is that what you're saying? Okay. Recommendation 1 then. Yes. Recommendation 1, that the Ministry of Education and the Federal Scholarship Board should ensure that further budgetary proposal to cater for the upkeep of the scholarship students in Russia and other countries should be in accordance with the projected exchange rate. Those in favor of recommendation 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Recommendation 2, that the Federal Ministry of Education should give priority to the scholarship students in the allocation of funds released to it for its department and agencies to avoid exposing the students to further unbearable conditions, by extension embarrassing the country. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. And recommendation 3, that the Senate do urge the federal government to ensure that adequate budgetary provisions and timely release of funds appropriated and made to the Federal Scholarship Board for the upkeep of the B scholars. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, Chairman Ethics. Can you present the next report? Thank you. Yes, Senator Manja.
Mr. President, my respected colleagues, I know before that one, Mr. President, I want to sincerely thank, on behalf of myself, thank Senator Anyanwu and all the members of that committee for having done a very thorough job, truly. Senator Anyanwu, we have always had Anyawus here from a particular direction in the southeast, and they have always been wise people, very wise, and this is another wise Anyanwu. They have done wonderfully well, Mr. President, and it is important for it to be noted by the Senate that this committee has done a good job, because matters that ordinarily supposed to go to court, these matters are no longer going to court. And most of these issues are about people who do not have the means to go to court. And these matters have been resolved amicably. Those ones that cannot be resolved, even the people are aware that these matters are bad. The committee has done a good job on behalf of the entire Senate, on behalf of all Nigerians. That is what the Senate is all about.
our duty here is not just to make laws, to have oversight activities on the executive, but also resolve matters amicably. And that is what this committee is all about. Mr. President, I just decided, I haven't listened to him for a long while. I decided that something must be said about them. And that's the reason why I decided to stand up to make this speech. Thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity.
And Senator James Manja, I think the point you made is well noted. And right from the first report they gave, we did the case of the gentleman that was electrocuted, and with the family were later compensated, as we emphasize that the work of the committee that they're doing is very, very enormous and very living. As you say, we're not just here to make laws and oversight. We represent people, we give people hope, we give opportunities to them, and a family that had lost everything. But by the action of the committee, we've been able to resolve that. And as you say, also stopped us from going to court on issues. It's a commended effort, and the efforts that we're doing, we commend it and appreciate it. And that is why we're trying to encourage them to try and see if we can clear a lot of their backlog reports so that they can be able to do more. So, Senator Samaye, that was another endorsement from one of your colleagues and from all of us for the good work that you are doing. So, next, so I can say that is why there's also been a recommendation that the budgetary allocation to the committee in 2017 should be increased, and that will be reflected in 2017 budget. Senator Samayo.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank my colleagues for this wonderful submission. And it could have been possible without my colleagues and my members of the committee. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the Senate will record that on Wednesday, 18th May 2016, Rising Order 41, Senator Joseph G. Dada, August West, drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from PC Vembe Abraham against Nigerian Police Force for alleged wrongful dismissal from the service and urged the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate referred the matter to the committee for action. I will now go to, because this matter is just, let me just go to the recommendation. Observations and findings. After going through oral and written submissions of both parties, the committee found as follows. 1. That PC Vembe Abraham was arrested by SP Felicia Moses in Abuja and detained for 14 days for an alleged robbery case. 2. That after the release of PC Vembe Abraham from detention, he never showed up in his new command nor reported back for further investigation of the robbery case against him. C. That PC Vembe actually deserted the force by not showing up at the new command for fear of being penalized till date. Recommendation. Having fully heard and considered the submissions of the petitioner and responded, the committee recommends that since the dismissal of PC Vembe Abraham was based on the desertion which he evidently committed, his dismissal by police force should be sustained. Thank you, Mr. President, again, and distinguished colleagues, for the opportunity to serve.
Distinguished colleagues, we go straight to the recommendation. The recommendation here is that the committee recommends that since the dismissal of PC Vembe Abraham was based on desertion, which he evidently committed, his dismissal by the Nigerian Police Force should be sustained. Those in favor of this recommendation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. I thank the chairman of Ethics and Privileges. We now take your next report. The one on the first bank, another first bank, Indubuse Wosu.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, the Senate will recall that on Wednesday, 5th October 2016, rising on Order 41, Senator Theodore A. Oji, Abia Central, please should be corrected. Drew the attention of the Senate to a petition from Mr. Ndubisi Nwosu against the First Bank of Nigeria PSC for alleged unlawful termination of his appointment by the bank and urge the Senate to look into the matter. In line with Order 41.3, the Senate referred to the matter to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for detailed legislative investigation. Then I'll go to observation of findings. Observation and findings. After going through the submissions of both parties, the committee found out as follows. 1. That Mr. Nwosu's appointment was terminated on 7 November 2001 because he failed to frustrate fraudulent withdrawal of 2 parallel checks totaling 7,370 naira. 2. That the bank's disciplinary process was duly followed in terminating Mr. Ndubisi Nwosu's appointment, and the bank acted in line with the terms and conditions of service. And 3. That the bank had paid Mr. Ndubisi Nwosu the sum of 1,416,166 kobo, 66 naira, 67 kobo, as his terminal benefits on 13 February 2014, which he personally acknowledged. Recommendation. Having fully heard and considered the submissions of the petitioner and the respondent, the committee recommends 1. The termination of the appointment of Mr. Ndubisi Nwosu by First Bank of Nigeria PLC be sustained since A. Due process was followed in terminating the appointment, and B. His terminal benefit have been paid by the bank and duly collected and acknowledged by the petitioner. Thank you, Mr. President, and the opportunity to serve.
Distinguished colleagues, we'll go to recommendation. The committee recommends the termination of the appointment of Mr. Ndubisi Nwosu by First Bank of Nigeria be sustained, since a due process was followed in terminating the appointment and his terminal benefits had been paid by the bank and duly collected and acknowledged by the petitioner. Those in favor of recommendation 1, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Yeah, once again, let me thank the chairman for the work well done. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, the sixth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the reports of the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petition in respect of A. Petition raised by Senator Muhammad Ali Ndume on the insinuation that the invitation of the Comptroller General of Customs was informed by the seizure of the bulletproof SUV vehicle belonging to the Senate President, purportedly cleared with the fake National Assembly document. And B, the alleged first-degree saga of Senator Dino Melai. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Senator Samuel Anyanwu to move the motion for the Senate to consider the report of the committee.
Senator Samayo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. You know, I have a lot of work to do today, and because this report just had to come, I want my colleagues to give you like 10 minutes for us to step it down for 10 minutes so that my members could sign, because I want to make sure I have the accurate thing, Mr. President. This is for laying and consideration. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, without someone to second the motion that we stand it down for 15 minutes, we can take the next item on the order paper and then consider. Anyway, seconding that motion, and then we'll put the question. Senator Alashadra. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion, I will stand there for 15 minutes. And those in favor say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the seventh order of the day is the second reading of the Local Government Act Repeal Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 9th November 2016. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Peter Nwabushi to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Peter Nwabushi.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Senator Peter Nwabushi, representing the good people of Delta North. Mr. President, I noticed that the Secretariat is not ready. Secretariat is not ready with the copies of the bill for the second reading. So I will urge that this be stood down for another legislative day.
Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that we stand down the seventh order of the day till another legislative day.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the seventh order on the paper be stood down till another legislative day. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor, that will stand down this item to another legislative day say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, the eighth order of the day is second reading of the Chartered Institute of Auctioneers of Nigeria Bill 2017. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 22nd March 2017. Mr. President, we wish to invite Senator Hope Uzodimma to move the motion for the bill to be read a second time.
Senator Hope Uzodimma.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Hope Uzodimma. I represent the good people of Imo West Senatorial District in Imo State. Mr. President, my highly respected colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on the Chartered Institute of Auctioneers of Nigeria. This bill was first read on Wednesday, 22nd March.
NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www